America. It's been a great tradition in straight-to-home video and DVD releases to have some kind of genre movie with American something in the title. And I'm not even talking about the high-profile films like American Sniper, I'm talking about these low-budget goodness that we like to review on this channel. Now, of course, we have American Poltergeist. Actually comes out the same year as the remake of the Poltergeist, large budget Poltergeist movie, as if by some fluke of nature there. Now, this one actually is based somewhat on historical events. Basically, it tells a story that involves Lizzie Borden. No, not that type of Lizzie Borden. I'm talking about the historical figure, Lizzie Borden, who was accused of murdering members of her own family with an axe. She was actually acquitted in real life, but everyone pretty much believed that she did, and there was apparently lots of evidence to point towards her, but she got away with it. And this movie basically is tells the story of this ghostly figure coming back from the past to exact revenge on these kind of bunch of college kids, as you do when you're a spirit. So the story here is we have this group of I think there's 5 college kids basically rent out this property. They'll go to live in this large property to try and sort of cut down on their kind of college costs basically. And this house is owned by this super hot MILF who is really a terrible actress, but she's very good to look at. She's acting weird this whole film basically. I mean, you could argue that her character's meant to be weird, but you know, you'll see what I mean. Anyway, you know, strange things start to happen, strange noises, things moving around, stuff like that. Obviously, you know, your typical sort of poltergeist behaviour. And as the film progresses, we kind of learn a little bit more about the kind of the history of the house. Now, it takes a good hour before we actually get anything sort of substantial with this movie in regards to, you know, supernatural occurrences and things like that. And the last kind of 20 minutes or so really sort of deal with this kind of the climax, so to speak, of this kind of spirit trying to exact revenge and trying to basically, you know, kill these kind of kids basically in a gruesome fashion. So let's kind of break it down a little bit more. So this is obviously a low budget film, and as with most low budget films, you can't kind of hold it to the same sort of standards you would do a kind of high budget cinema release movie. And obviously there's going to be some things that aren't quite going to be as good. But that being said, it is worth your time and money as a piece of entertainment. I have to say, I thought the central premise was okay here. It's a pretty standard, you know, B-movie plot, to be quite honest. You've seen this probably a few times before. Not necessarily anything wrong with it, but it just kind of goes through the motions of, you know, a few kids go into this kind of haunted house, basically, and for whatever reason, they end up staying there. Now this one is a little bit different because it kind of tries to link it in with these kind of historical facts, which again a few films have done, to be fair. The acting here is a bit of a mixed bag, I have to be honest. There are some really standout poor actors, unfortunately, and a lot of these people who were in front of the camera actually had jobs to do behind the camera as well. So you know, unfortunately, some of the acting is just very distractingly bad. Now, you could argue, on the other hand, that one character in particular is kind of a bit kooky, and we're told that they're eccentric and stuff like that. So you could argue, yes, this character's meant to be like that, but it's just like the line delivery and the posture and stuff like that is just, you know, it unfortunately comes across as bad acting rather than just being kooky and eccentric. But it's not just limited to her, to be fair. There are some okay performances, but you know, it's a mixed bag, as I say. This is a kind of a slow film as well. Like I said, the first hour really, not a lot happens. It's kind of pretty much all build up. But I have to say, I actually preferred the beginning of this film, and as the film progressed, I kind of got a little bit bored with it. So I quite like the central premise of this film and the setup, and it kind of seems fairly natural. But as the sort of film progresses, it seemed more sort of forced and kind of more preposterous as the kind of the movie progressed. And when we get to the climax, I'll come on to that. So the effects here, I actually didn't mind the effects. I thought the effects weren't too bad, and they kind of pretty much save it all up for the kind of the final act. And there are a couple of jump scares here that were okay. I'll give it that. There is a couple of reasonable jump scares here. But here's the kicker, and here's the thing I think that it will get most people. You don't really see any on-screen deaths, and there are a few. There's a few people get dispatched, but it's all done, apart from one, arguably. But pretty much every other death is all just off screen or completely off screen. And I think this will, if you're a horror fan, this is not what you want to see. And it's not as if they're subtle about it as well. Now, like I said, there are a couple of good jump scares, and there are a couple of good makeup effects mixed with some CGI as well, which it wasn't too bad. But it's overall, I found the ending to be so kind of convoluted and just it gets more stupid as the kind of film progresses, like I said. And the end of like 10-15 minutes or so, it's just ridiculous. The cop character, I have no idea what his role in all of this was, to be quite honest. Absolutely ridiculous. It just doesn't act like a policeman at all. I didn't understand what he was doing there. And then there's a scene where he comes in towards the end and sees what these kids are doing and just doesn't react. Now, I know he's kind of has his history with it, shall we say, without kind of being spoilers, but even so. So, it wasn't a terrible movie. It did have some redeeming features, but I just felt it was kind of a little bit disappointing in certain areas. It had a couple of flourishes, I have to say, towards the end. Although I do think the second half of this film is weaker, and their setup was quite good, but it just takes too long to get to the climax. When we do get there, it's just a little bit silly and a little bit convoluted and just kind of, overall a little bit ridiculous. It doesn't explain a lot of it, what's actually going on, I don't think, in a good enough way. So overall, I'm going to give this movie let's give it a 4 out of 10. It wasn't bad. I think if you're interested in B-movie horror films, you might like this. But if you're a gorehound, you ain't going to like it because all the deaths are off screen. 4 out of 10. What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.